We start, as always, with Cowboy head basketball coach Mike Boynton, and let's first go back to the Texas Tech weekend. Celebrating the 1994-95 Final Four team, then it's a great high-level game and a fantastic win for your team. That was a pretty good day.
Yeah, it was a special weekend. Certainly, first of all, to have Coach Eddie Sutton back in the building, watching both of his sons who played for him here, and then, Sean, who was on the staff with him in '95 to help those guys get to the Final Four. It was great to have most of those guys back here to celebrate their 25-year anniversary of that run. But the game, was icing on top of the cake. The way our kids competed like the '95 team. Played defense really hard, made some tough shots, and just came out with a hard-fought victory at home against a really, really good Texas Tech team.
There's been a lot of talk, with good reason, about Isaac Likely being sick, out for a month, the transition he had to make coming back to the squad. But what maybe hasn't been talked about as much was the unique nature of your roster. 3 seniors, returning starters, a couple of sophomores as returning starters. But for a long time, until you made a lineup change, your whole bench, freshmen and a graduate transfer. Some unique dynamics roster-wise, and because of that, did it take some of those new guys some time to kind of settle into roles, and consequently maybe a little more time for your team once Isaac Likely came back to get back into a groove because of those unique dynamics?
Yeah, it always takes a while for freshmen in particular to learn just how to compete every day at the collegiate level. But then when they're asked to a lot of times be out there together without a whole lot of direction from some older guys who have been through some battles at this level, it's a challenge for them. So when Ice went out and we had to bump some of those guys up the roster, so to speak, into roles that they weren't quite ready for, it certainly hurt us. But we're glad Ice is continuing to get healthier, and those guys will continue to get better as the season goes along. And we just look forward to their continual progress. Having Thomas come off the bench has been a really, really good spark for us. And something that we look forward to continuing as the season finishes.
And replacing him in the starting lineup has been Jonathan Laurent, the graduate transfer who came to Oklahoma State from UMass. He did not have one of his better games statistically against West Virginia, but prior to that, he'd been on a run of about 8 games in which he averaged about 11 points per game. It's funny how things happen. He comes in, makes big plays in the clutch against Texas Tech, and a year ago, who would have ever thought, including himself, he'd be in this position doing this here.
Yeah, it's amazing how things work out for people who work really hard at it. And he's a tremendous kid. He's got a great attitude. I've talked about it before. He really struggled to start the year in terms of finding his identity within our team. And he never once complained. He never wondered why he was here, what was going on, or questioned what our staff was doing with him. He just continued to buy into the process, continued to work with his teammates to find his groove. And now that he's playing better, consequently our team is playing better, and everybody's enjoying the process a little bit more.
The West Virginia game in Morgantown, you were up 5 at half. You were up 8 to 10 points pretty much the last 8 minutes of the first half until maybe the last minute and a half or so. But there were some opportunities in the first half, some uncontested layups that were not converted, a couple of alley-oops on the fast break. As you look back on that, do you feel like those key opportunities that maybe could have grown the lead even more were keys in the demise? Because that lead could have been a lot bigger.
Yeah, certainly you point to the first 4 minutes of the second half where they ultimately took the lead and never gave it back because we got off to a really, really sluggish start for whatever reason. But I'd definitely go back to the first half where we missed 5 layups and we had 4 turnovers in transition where we certainly have to convert or get fouled. The 2 alley-oops you talk about, a couple layups. We missed a couple free throws. And so you think you have a chance to go from maybe a 10 or 12-point lead to 16 on the road to really, really put pressure on the home team. But to allow them to stay within reach and cut the lead to just 5 at halftime gave them momentum. And then in the second half, like I said, was just not very good at all.
Yeah, you mentioned a sluggish start. What else happened? Did West Virginia do anything differently in the second half?
Well, they went back to their big lineup to start the second half and played Culver and Oscar together and just made it a physical battle. We kind of dominated the game inside the paint again in the first half. And Coach Huggins, in all his wisdom, decided, if they're going to play our game, then we'll see if they can play our game better than we can. And they just kind of out-physicaled us in the second half. I think we were pretty much within 2 or 3 rebounds on them for most of the first half, and that extended to well beyond double figures in the second half because they imposed their will on the glass and in the paint.
Let's look ahead to Bedlam. The Sooners were the victors in Norman in the first meeting. Your thoughts on round 2 against Oklahoma?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly didn't get off to a good start in that one, so definitely need to do a better job as it particularly relates to defending Brady Manick at the three-point line. He was a big catalyst for their start. We got to continue to try to play inside out and put pressure on them without a ton of depth inside to defend us at the rim and get ourselves to the free throw line. And then we have to defend the three-point line ourselves at a higher level.
Do you feel like now in round 2, with your more concerted effort to get the ball to the rim, matchup-wise against Oklahoma, do you feel like that could be an advantage for you because you've really evolved offensively in the 3 weeks since you played them?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly something we'll make a major emphasis. We got to get the ball into the paint. It's not only the best way to attack them, it's the best way for this team to play. And so we have to focus on us just playing our best basketball. It's a big game, no question about it. You know, like I said before, this game doesn't count as more wins, but it means more when you win it. And it certainly means more if you don't play well. So we've got to make sure we have our best efforts so our fans and our former players and everybody can be really proud of how we play.
It's the Cowboys and Sooners at 3 o'clock on Saturday in Gallagher-Iba Arena. Coming up, Jessica Maury profiles Cowgirl basketball forward Abby Winchester. Stay with us.